Hello everyone. In my video today I'm going to show you how to add some light and shadows to a floor plan using Photoshop. So here in Photoshop I've got that floor plan with some realistic looking materials added to it, but it still kind of feels a bit flat. You know, I want my clients to experience the space a little bit more realistically. So by adding some light and shadows coming in through the windows and in the corners and all kinds of stuff, I can make this space look and feel much more desirable to a client. And our goal should always be to have our designs sell themselves without us designers having to say a word. So the first thing I'm going to do is concentrate on the light. So on this floor plan we do have some windows and we have the main entrance. And I want to show this space as though it were in the middle of the day, so therefore I need to add some light coming out of those areas. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to locate my flooring materials, and so I have done that already. They're all kind of sitting right here, but then I also have one at the very bottom. And my goal is to take those flooring materials, and I'm just holding Shift to capture many of them in a row. If your flooring materials are kind of scattered throughout, you can click and then hold Control to click additional ones. So it's really up to you how you want to go ahead and select in the Layers panel. But locate your flooring material, highlight them, and then what you want to do is you want to move them to just on top of the line work that you have. I don't know what you have that layer named, but that's where all your line, like your CAD line work, is located. So the white background, the line work layer, and then you should have your flooring materials. And this is just my way of organizing the Layers panel. You don't necessarily have to do this. But what I like to do is I like to find the topmost flooring material that I have here in the Layers panel. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to the options bar and I'm going to choose Create a New Layer. And what happens is right above that topmost flooring material, a new layer pops up. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to name this layer Floor Light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on adding light to this floor plan, and I'm choosing to name it Floor Light because the light's actually going to come out on top of the floor for the most part. So that's why I'm making this layer. So my light pixels, like all the pixels I'm about to create, are going to live on this layer. If you were to add this light, say, to one of the materials, then what happens is the pixels from your light marry with your wood flooring material or your marble material or whatever kind of material that you're going on top of. So I'm trying to control my drawing, so maybe I don't want to show light at some time. By having it on its own separate layer, I can keep them separate and I can turn off the light as I need to. If I didn't do that, like I said, it's going to marry the pixels of the wood and I'd never be able to get those pixels out again. With Floor Light highlighted, I'm going to zoom in over here on this top window. And again, this is just a demonstration. I'm not going to demo all the windows, but I'm just going to do this one right here. And it's important to know that window light usually comes in like a V shape. So there's a lot of scattered light happening outside the window. And so it usually kind of hits these corners, these innermost corners, and kind of casts like a light beam of sorts. I don't know how else to really explain it. But what I want to do is I want to take the polygonal lasso tool, which is the third one on the toolbar. And you might have to go underneath and find it under the lasso tool. So polygonal. And I want to create that area where the light is going to come into. And I'm going to really overshoot that. So again, I want a V pattern. So I'm coming out here. That's looking good. And I'm really kind of over exaggerating where this light is probably actually going to be living. The hardest part about this process is trying to kind of mimic the same angle that you have over here down here. So just kind of look at what is the distance. And sometimes what I do is I like to kind of make a triangle to see about how far over I need to go. And then I come back down here and I try to mimic that. I hold the Shift to make a perfectly straight line. And I'm going to guess maybe somewhere around here. Click, and then I'm going to come back to form that V shape and end that shape right there. what happens is the marching ants comes around so you can see what you've been selecting, which that's great. I have it on my floor light layer over here, and we're going to bring in a light using the gradient tool. So the gradient tool is a black to white looking square. I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice that your options bar up at the top changed. I'm going to click right on this scroll bar. I'm not going to click the arrow, I clicked right on that picture in the scroll bar. And it opens up the gradient editor. So this is where I'm going to create a custom gradient that's going to represent light. So the top left node is what you want to have set to 100% opacity. So if you double click inside that little box, you'll see that this kind of changed a little bit, and I can tell it what opacity. So remember that if something has 100% opacity, you can't see through it. The one on the right should have 0% opacity. So that's the top left node and the top right node. The bottom left node is going to be to indicate where the sun is located and the color of the sun. I'm going to double click in here, and it's going to take me to the color picker. And I'm trying to represent light, and especially sunlight. And psychologically for humans, we think of sunlight as being more yellow. So I'm going to kind of come in the yellow to orange range. And then I'm going to pick a super light yellow. I don't want to go too bold, because if I go too bold, then it's like the sun is in our backyard, and it's not. So let's pick something like almost on the white spectrum, but with a tinge of yellow. Something kind of like that. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now you can see that the gradient updated, and you have yellow kind of showing here, and then it eventually goes into transparency, and so the transparency means that the light's fading out, and that's exactly what we want to have happen. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. The next thing I need to do is I need to determine what kind of gradient do I want to show. So up here there's some options. The first one is the linear gradient. The second one is the radical gradient. And I don't really use these other three for light or shadows. I really kind of stick with those first two. You can use either one of these. I kind of find that the circular one gives a little bit more realism to your gradient, but linear works as well. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to stick with linear just so that you can see what that looks like. With my gradient updated and the type of gradient that I want to have, it's now time to apply the light into this little area. How I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to place my cursor outside the window as though like the sun is right outside. I'm going to click and drag in a straight line, and I'm going to end right before I hit the marching ants. So, you can kind of gauge a little bit. If you need to hold shift to get it straight, you sure can. And again, just drop it right before you hit the marching ants. And you'll see that your light comes in and it fades beautifully right into the space. That's pretty cool, huh? So let me do that one more time. Let me show you what the circular looks like. So I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to click the circular, and I'm going to do the same thing. Place it outside the window like the sun's right there. Click and drag it in. Hold shift if you want to keep it straight, and then let go of your mouse. And you'll see that you have it. So honestly, there's not a lot of difference between the two when you do this method between linear and radial, but when we get into shadows, you're going to see where linear and radial are going to come in handy. So that looks beautiful. I don't think I need to do anything more, but if you felt like you needed to make it stronger, you can do it one more time. So you're kind of adding layers. And then it's really strong, so maybe that was a little too much. I don't want it to feel like an alien abduction is coming. You know how I feel about those. Spiders, alien abductions. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and Control Z so I kind of take it back to a softer little glow, just like this. Now over in the layers panel, we put this on the floor light layer, but if we kind of peruse all the way up into the actual layers bar right here, you'll see a word that says normal. open that up and kind of play with some options. So I really like the overlay, soft light, like that whole area. So you can kind of see, like, when you click on overlay, it changes the look of the light. Soft light, hard light, vivid light, it kind of adds white to your space. Linear light, you know, there's a lot of, ooh, that pin light makes it really yellow. Don't think we really want to go too yellow. It's not that kind of light, and we don't want it too white either. So I really like soft light or overlay. It's totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead and stick with overlay because it helps me see, like, especially like right here, I can see where that light's actually coming in to the window. The soft light might be a little too subtle. It's a little harder to see, so I'm going to choose overlay. The goal is to make it not too bright and not too light. And so in addition to changing your look of the light, you can also kind of play with the opacity to find the right balance. So 100% opacity, maybe I just need to drop it down to 75. And there it kind of gives me that soft look. Maybe I need it more like 90%. You can play with it. It's really kind of your eye that matters the most, but that is how you can add light to a window. I'm going to Control D to deselect, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that you can see what that now looks like. So we've just kind of added this really cool extra element. It's subtle, but once you have them in all of these areas, you're going to see that it does make a difference. So you can put them all on this floor light area. When you come down to here, your light is going to be hitting objects. So when you draw your polygonal lasso tool, let's just do this real quick, just so you can kind of see how this could work. The light's not going to really go past this chair, this table, or this chair. So you're still drawing at a V shape, but you're going to stop right before you hit the furniture. And I am using the polygonal lasso tool, and I'm just trying to come around the furniture a little bit. You will see it come out here, and actually it could actually come a little bit of a V out from these furniture pieces. So see how I kind of did like a little hourglass shape right there? And remember, I'm really just concerned about how it's affecting the floor, not the objects at this time. So just little minor V's kind of coming off. And then I'm tracing around the furniture, and there's going to be a bigger V right here. And so that is where I'm expecting the light to live, inside of the marching ants. So once again, gradient tool. What I like about the gradient tool is it's automatically set up for you. So all you have to do, let me zoom out a little bit, is again come from the outside, work your way in, and come in just before you hit the last marching ants. And then you see that you have that. Your floor light layer already has overlay and the opacity set. So it's up to you as to how much that you want to do this. So you can layer upon layer if you want to, but just to zoom out and show you that effect, there you've got light in the windows.